This is a boiler that is from the 60s era. It is a hot water boiler, hydronic boiler, and inspecting these boilers is going to be a cursory inspection, but there are some things that we need to look at to make sure is correct on these boilers for not only safety but functionality. And starting at the very top of the boiler, we begin with the hot water expansion tank. The expansion tank, of course, is just that, and we want to check for any kind of leaks at the connections to the water tank. And then as we follow these pipes down to the boiler, we're checking for leaks at any kind of the connections. Here we have the flue coming off of the boiler. We have the damper control, and then we can see the flue goes into a fireplace, and the pargin is going to need to be repaired because it's cracked up and have some gaps in there. So that's one thing that needs to be done. As we follow the pipes down and down the boiler, we come to some more connections, and as I look at some of the copper pipes on here, I see quite a bit of corrosion that's going to need to be repaired. That pipe may need to be replaced. If I come over here to the TPR valve coming off of the system, I can see down here where there's a bucket with water dripping in it coming from this TPR valve. And as I follow on down, I want to come to the pressure as well as the temperature gauge. Now, temperature and pressure on a hot water boiler is very important. You don't ever want to see the PSI go over 20 PSI. This one's running about 12 pounds, which is 12 to 13 pounds, which is good. The temperature on this boiler is running at 180 degrees, or just below 180 degrees, which is fine. You don't want to see, I would say 200 degrees and over would definitely be something that needs to be evaluated by a plumbing contractor. So under 20 psi and under 200 degrees on the boiler. And then as we follow down, we come to the water pump. Sometimes they are at the side of the boiler, but this one's mounted on the front. And we want to listen for a quiet running motor. We also want to put our hands on the housing to make sure that it's not overheating. They get quite hot if they're low on oil. If there's oil leaks, you'll see oil dripping from the bottom of the pump, and you'll see oil spills down below. You want to look for that. Next, usually all boilers have a inspection port, and this inspection port is where you would open this up to check the general condition of the heat exchanger as well as the flame in here. We got a good hot blue flame coming in, so that looks good. And I look at some of the covers. I see some heavy rusting, which is very typical on an old boiler, but I don't see any leaking. The fan going that's pushing the flame into the boiler is running nice and smooth. So other than that, this boiler looks in pretty good shape. But it will need to be serviced. The TPR valve is going to need to be serviced. The flue is going to need to be serviced. And you have a connection over here where the disconnect back to the holding tank or water heater has a bit of a leak in the stem valve there. But other than that, this boiler checked out fairly well for a pretty old boiler.